Hello. Welcome to your technical interview. I'll be conducting your interview today. Let's start with some theoretical questions. Explain the event loop and how JavaScript handles asynchronous operations.
Okay, so since we are talking about the event loop in JavaScript, so basically JavaScript works as a single thread language, but the event loop is the process where is the loop which basically stacks the functions which come in the order of execution, and once the processes or the functions which are mentioned or the statements which are mentioned in the JavaScript, they get executed line by line as in a single threaded language. But there's this possibility of asynchronous operations which is handled by the web APIs, which are transferred to the web APIs, which is basically to the runtime environment. Once that is done, then there's this call stack which executes the sequential operations line by line. Once that is done, then there are certain micro tasks and macro tasks. Micro tasks have a higher priority, then they are again scheduled back to the call, that is a call stack. Once that is done, then we get the full-fledged JavaScript program execution. So this is the way JavaScript handles synchronous operations, and this is how the event loop works. Basically, having all the events or all the tasks performing seamlessly. That is how it works.
Good job. You covered the main concepts of the event loop, including single threading, the call stack, and how asynchronous operations are handled. There were a few areas where clarity could be improved, but overall, you demonstrated a solid understanding of the topic. What is the difference between process and thread?
Okay, so a process in operating system is basically a standalone running program which has a memory, which has its own memory, which has its own calling stack, uh, returning function, and basically all the processes are isolated from each other, and they are generally slow because of the inter-process communication. They use IPC, and it can be anything: Spotify, Chrome, VS Code, which can be categorized as a process on the computer system. Coming to the thread are basically the smallest unit of execution which are working inside the process, and they are not isolated. Even if there's a one bad thread, then that may interfere with the processing of another thread and may stop the functioning of another thread basically. And threads are like the smallest program which sort of help in achieving concurrency, but processes are what help in uh, isolation. So that's the main difference between a process and thread. And for thread, I guess the examples could be a Chrome tabs that are open inside the Chrome to achieve concurrency within the Chrome. So yes.
You did a good job explaining the difference between processes and threads, particularly emphasizing process isolation and the role of threads in concurrency. Your examples helped illustrate the concepts well. Keep up the good work. Great work on the theoretical questions. Now let's move to the coding section. Here's the coding problem. You can see the details on your screen. Before you start coding, please explain your approach to solving this problem. Also, feel free to ask any clarifying questions if you need to understand the requirements better. While you work through it, please plan to note the time and space complexity of your final solution as well.
Okay, so considering the program, the question asks for the longest palindromic substring in S. So I'd approach this program with the help of two pointer, which where I will expand around the center used in the given string. Consider there's this odd and even length centers, and we'll keep on expanding while characters match, and then we'll keep track of maximum length substring. This way we'll achieve the time complexity of O of n square, and space complexity of, I guess, O of 1. So I'll try and write the program now.
You're on the right track. However, be cautious about how you track the maximum length substring, as there might be edge cases that could affect your results. Please go ahead and implement your solution. I notice you're looking away. Let's stay focused on the interview. Your solution is correct and efficiently finds the longest palindromic substring. The code quality is good and it handles edge cases well. Thank you for completing the interview. Your responses have been recorded.